Well, hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to this edition of the Take Charge or Change podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we're going to talk about the 5 secrets from neuroscience to increase your attention span. You'll enjoy this edition of the podcast. Well, at the same time that we're releasing this particular podcast, we had just completed a short little taping on a concept called deep work. And the basic thesis of the book, Deep Work, is the idea that really to get significantly more productive and to accomplish important things in your work, particularly if it's work that is related to thinking and creative work and research, you need to find ways of really embracing deep work, distraction-free work for extended periods of time to really get the productivity gains and output necessary to be successful in your career. So when I came across this particular article, it was by Eric Barker, and the article was a great overview on some basic pointers that, again, most of us have heard these in one form or another. But as I've said in previous podcasts, I think these little short podcasts are great reminders of things that we need to kind of reset in our work lives. So again, how to increase your attention span, 5 secrets from neuroscience. And so let's just kind of walk through some of the main points that Barker references. He starts the article with just some really shocking information. So one of the things he talked about was a research experiment that was done in academia, looking at how long students could stay focused and to attend to what was positioned as really important work. And there could be sort of dire consequences if they didn't pay attention to the work and keep themselves from being distracted. And on average, they could only work for very short periods of time, like 3 to 5 minutes was a maximum before they were distracted by technology. So even under lab conditions, it was very difficult for them to not reach for their technology and to fight back that tendency to always be looking for their technology. So he makes a comment, our attention spans are evaporating and focus is a lost art. And on average, the research seems to show that we check our phones about 150 times a day, about every 6 to 7 minutes. That's not a real big stretch. I mean, I look at my own life, and it just seems like so much of the information that we have to deal with is in the context of our smartphones. Whether it's alerts or emails or that kind of thing. And the minute we're not doing something, it's so natural to reach for the phone. And so maybe there's some productivity gains, but that can't necessarily be a positive thing. Here's an interesting report. So according to one report in Scientific American data, they looked at 100 hospitals, U.S. hospitals, and found that in 2004, an estimated nationwide 559 people had hurt themselves by walking into a stationary object while texting. And by 2010, that number had topped 1,500. And estimates by the study authors predicted the number of injuries would double between the years 2010 and 2015. So, astounding. And so it really gives you context for the world that we're in. So he wrote the article sort of positioning this is attention span 101. So what are some basic things that we need to focus in on? So it's a constant battle. I'll actually talk about one little paragraph he wrote as to why it's such a big battle. So what's really interesting in the article is he made the comment that the same system in our gray matter that keeps us on the lookout for food and water actually rewards you for discovering new or interesting or novel information. So part of that study he was alluding to is the role of the dopamine system actually has been shown to relate directly to information-seeking behavior in primates. So they found that macaque monkeys, for example, respond to receiving information similarly to the way they respond to primitive rewards such as food or water. Moreover, a single dopamine neurons process both primitive and cognitive rewards, and that suggests that current theories of reward seeking must be revised to include information seeking. So that's the challenge, right? So one of the reasons we reach for the technology, we're constantly in distraction mode, is we're always seeking novel or new information. That's just kind of a default for us. Okay, so that's the setup for this this video, and at the end of the day, he goes over some basic best practices to help us focus more effectively. And these aren't necessarily new, but they're good to go over. So the first thing he talks about is stop multitasking. So juggling multiple activities not only divides your attention among the tasks, but you also pay a cognitive penalty on top of that for managing the switching, right? So the comment is this results in more errors and makes things take longer than they would have had you just been looking at one thing at a time in terms of your work. So don't buy into the idea that you can successfully multitask. There is a cost to that, and so if you've got important work to do, it's really important that you not get involved in a lot of other multitasking activities at the same time. What's interesting is a study showed that people who believe that they're good at multitasking actually tend to be those who do the worst on laboratory tests of multitasking, leading the study authors to conclude that participants' perceptions of their multitasking ability were poorly grounded in reality. Okay, so don't multitask. So the second thing, which is interesting, is exercise. So lots of studies have confirmed that when you strengthen your body, you strengthen your brain. In fact, cognitive control is measurably better after a single bout of exercise. The book Spark talked about that in quite a bit of detail. So, starting your day with some exercise to get cognitively ready for your morning, if that's a really productive period of your day. Maybe using exercise midday to recharge your batteries both physically and cognitively. They're just great disciplines to engage in. So if regular exercise, aerobic exercise, or burst kind of exercise routines aren't part of your regime right now, I'd encourage you to try to figure out a way of getting that into your schedule if you want to boost your cognitive abilities. It's interesting, you made the comment that boosts in cognitive and control abilities occur even after engagement in a single bout of physical exertion, as assessed in healthy children and those diagnosed with ADHD, with benefits extending to academic achievement. Interestingly, it seems that the impact on the brain is greater if an exercise program is also cognitively engaging. Similar training benefits of acute and chronic exercise and cognitive control have been shown in both young adults and middle-aged adults. There's also a very large body of research on the cognitive benefits of physical exercise in older adults. So that's really critical, and then he goes on to talk about how important it is to get adequate sleep. So it's not just sort of the exercise piece, but really being smart about exercising, being very, very disciplined in your day, ordering your day, getting enough sleep, getting enough relaxation, de-stressing, all those things are really important. It goes on to say even a single bad night's sleep can impair cognitive control, and ongoing sleep deprivation can have severe and long-term consequences over our cognitive ability and our inability to be focused. Point number 3 was meditate. So focus on your breath, and when your mind wanders, return your attention to your breath. That's meditation in a nutshell. Guess what else that is? That's attention training. And so it's a really good comment. We don't have to be yogi masters to get the benefit of meditation. Whether it's prayer, reflection, just focusing on your breath for a little bit to really marshal your focusing powers. Great discipline to be involved in. And then call on Mother Nature. So the other thing is that exercise and meditation both strengthen your attention muscles, and spending time in nature recharges those muscles when they've been exhausted. So a 2008 paper described a significant improvement in their working memory of performance after a nature walk, but not after the urban walk. So similar beneficial effects of nature exposure have been shown to occur in children with ADHD, young adults with depression, and amazingly, even in response to just viewing nature pictures. Okay, so takeaway, try to get out for walks in nature as a way of boosting your cognitive powers. Number 5, reduce interference. You can improve your ability to focus by changing your brain or changing your behavior, and it's best to do both. So we talked about getting an environment that really helps you to focus. A recent study by Professor Bill Thornton and his colleagues at the University of Southern Maine demonstrated that when performing complex tasks that require our full attention, even the mere presence of the experimenter's phone, not the participant's phone, led to a distraction and worse performance. In the same study, the presence of a student's silence phone in a classroom had an equally negative impact on attention. So, I mean, it's crazy just how much that takes away from our effectiveness. And so the idea of batching, things like emails, phone calls, that kind of thing, is a great way of boosting your performance through the day. So how do we sum up the main points of this podcast? Number 1, stop multitasking. Number 2, get regular exercise in through the day. Number 3, meditate. Call your Mother Nature, get out for nature walks, get out in beautiful spaces, and then reduce distractions and interference. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Take Charge of Change podcast. You know, if you organize teams, manage teams, if you're trying to boost your team's performance and improve their fulfillment and how they feel about their work and their work engagement, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation about how we can create customized programs to help your staff to be both professionally and personally resilient. All the best.